Hey, hey. Hi, guys. Welcome back. All right. So let's go ahead and jump in. We're just going to do this one last video tonight. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to wrap it up super early tonight. And then hopefully tomorrow. Tomorrow's a very early day. So anyway, I only do these specific messages if something really comes into my head. And I had this image of somebody with not bloodshot eyes, but like red, itchy, watery, maybe irritated, or maybe like allergies type of eyes. Hi, Lulubelle, RS, Jessica, Indigo Moon X. Great to see everyone. All right, so whomever this person is, my impression is that they were a masculine. Don't know. Maybe their eyes were red from crying, but I couldn't tell. It seemed like an irritated eye. We have a King of Pentacles and we have a Seven of Swords in the reverse. Well, that's actually a really great way to begin. But you notice that this person is standing and like opening up their cape and they're showing like the entire universe within them. This could be a King of Pentacles who's saying, I'm done lying or hiding anything. I'm going to go ahead and show it. You want to know me? All right, I'll show you all the ugly. I'll show you all the dirty. I'll show you all of it. You know, you might think I'm nuts though. That's what I've been trying to hide is I worry that you'll think I'm off my rocker, off my head. But you want to know? Then I'll tell you everything. And you notice that he stands in front of the like tree of life here. So him standing here showing what's within his cape, it's interesting because what we actually have is a smaller version of him almost looking like not quite dressed as a court jester, but like a smaller version of himself within this cape. He might be saying, I don't really feel like I'm that confident. You know, that could be the big secret, the big lie. And maybe this person has, strutted their stuff, acted like they're oh so confident, oh so wealthy, oh so, balanced. And it's all been a lie. It's all been, actually, I really worry that everyone will find out what I'm hiding. It just keeps feeling like they've been playing this game for a long time of trying to come across like someone that they weren't. Okay, let me ask this. Why are their eyes red, or why do they have maybe allergies, or is it a tear, or is it emotional? Or we have a Four of Pentacles. We have a King of Swords. Honestly, I just off of him, I got like, it's the stare fest, Care Bear stare. It is somebody who is going to stare for so long without blinking that their eyes are actually going to water. Yes, they may be trying to hold in emotion or tears because they fully expect that she is going to withdraw from them. This is one of those stories where, you know what's so crazy? Look at this. He's a double king because he's speaking a truth. He may think that, I'm sure when I speak this truth, she'll recoil from me. She'll withdraw. She'll sashay on out of the room. She won't want to be around me. She'll find a way to politely excuse herself. Because here I am. I'm going to lay all my cards on the table. I'm going to open the cape and let her see the real me. What he doesn't realize in this story is that that's where the real him is way better than the version of trying to hide whatever he perceives as his weak points or perceives as his problems, or, like, why hide any of that, especially from somebody? If they're going to recoil from you, then okay, then maybe they're not your lady or your man. In this case, we have a feminine. It's weird because I have to say this. If he has thought of her, you notice how this is a full-grown woman, but she's carrying around little dolls. I'm wondering if he has thought he is always supposed to be this like powerful protector, or maybe he's imagined that she is somehow like this delicate flower, or this little innocent who, couldn't possibly handle the fact that, he might be imperfect, or that he might have whatever he perceives as his own crazy, right? We all got our variety of crazy, right? It really feels like he's been hiding. And that there is this like toxicity here. This little devil pokes his head out from the darkened doorway. It really feels like he's been trying to hide whatever he thinks is his shadow side, not knowing it would be so much better if you let somebody get to know the whole you. So if he's finally ready to go ahead and do this, and it's kind of like, okay, fine, you wanted to know everything, I'll show you everything. And then I'll watch you run, but that's okay. He may be, and we have a lot of like lines, squares, patterns even here with the connecting of the dots back here, that I feel like perhaps what he perceives as his flaw or fault could be that he is extremely, like, I'm picturing somebody right now facing like every item in the, like, the pantry. Big deal. That's awesome. Especially if one partner is going to be super intense about making sure everything is super tidy. That's awesome. That's your strength, babe. Knock yourself out. It is going to be easier to find. By the way, my cupboards are not organized like that. That's why I always say I don't feel much like a Virgo. I'm not that organized. I don't keep my passport in like a nice file or document. I keep it in a broken piece of Tupperware that also I know has a broken, like, peacock feathered Christmas ornament in it. That's where I know my passport lives. That's how I file. Whereas this person would be very, 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 very specific. They would keep everything perfectly laid out, perfectly comfortably organized. And when I say comfortably, it's comfortable for them. But if they say, I know I'm too particular, I know that all the lines have to add up. I know this could be somebody who, when they write stuff, they write it in a perfect script. This could be somebody who would take a ruler and make lines on a piece of paper if there were no lines on it to make a shopping list. They can't just scribble it down. This could be like, that's how I operate. Everything has to be in perfect rows, perfect lines, perfect this, perfect that. All the lines should connect in a perfect arrangement. Like, I'm picturing in every aspect of this person's life. If it is time to cut up lasagna for dinner, I'm picturing somebody who comes up and they want it to be very perfect. Those kinds of things could be like exceptionally orderly and exceptionally. This is a specific message, so we're gonna go with what we got, right? That I always just kind of expand and go into detail on these. He may have gone into a career path that requires tremendous amounts of rule following, script following. Oftentimes this can be somebody who works in like a career path with high level of responsibility and again, order. Like, the rules must be followed to the letter each and every time. That might be where his comfort zone is. This feels like there is still an inner version of him that feels very, very small. And maybe this is his coping strategy, is to like make things very perfect. And that's how he keeps his mind, calm. And that's what he's perceived as. That's probably somebody won't want to deal with that part of me, that I want the lasagna cut into exactly 2.5 by 2.5 inch squares. She'll probably walk away from me. But he's kind of looking at her in the wrong way. Like, why do you assume she plays with dolls? Why do you assume that she's got, she could just be like a natural nurturer though, too. That might be why he's drawn to her, because there is a sense of nurturing. But I also think he doesn't like exactly want to become somebody's project to take care of. He doesn't want to become somebody's baby doll. He doesn't want to be that. Okay, so we have a Queen of Wands in the reverse. Holy smokes. Well, there was obviously a pretty, I'll say, damaging karmic somewhere in the mixture. This very damaging karmic is something that perhaps really, I'll say, amplified what he believed was either wrong in his world or what he was also lying about, hiding. Because this is a thing. This is like, okay, I'm going to tell you everything then. Here it comes. We've been getting a lot of stories like that, where it's like big revelations, big reveals, laying all the cards on the table finally. Maybe there was a very difficult karmic. Now, sometimes if there's been a secret karmic, maybe she has problems. And the reason I say that is because, okay, so we have a 5 of Pentacles, a big stress. But let me go back to this card for just a second. We have Frida. And the story of Frida, the very famous artist, super talented, is very tragic, though. Also in real life, this artist was in a bus accident in her like early teens, like 12, 13, somewhere in there. And a rod went like through her like hip pelvis area. And so she had to have a bunch of surgeries, and there was great pain. And lots of times, if you look at her art, you'll see that she painted herself as like, a wounded deer. And, so it's just somebody who had a lot of pain. The only reason I bring that up is not to bring up anything sad, but rather to say, wow, first off, what an amazing artist. And obviously we see Frida here on this card. But more because it might give us a little bit more insight into if they had a karmic relationship. It could be so like multiple things can be true at the same time, right? Our character here, this king, could have been, I mean, this could have been a marriage, right? A king and a queen can oftentimes be in a marriage. And the person that they married could have their own set of problems that plague them their whole life, whether it's mental, emotional, physical. And the other thing that could be true is it's also a really terrible match where they're not good together. But what about the responsibility of tending to somebody who may have their own set of, hurts, pains, problems? That could just be something to be mindful of here, because if they're trying to lay everything out, when we go into that 5 of Pentacles, it's like, no matter what, their life has been, I'm going to say, exceptionally busy. This is actually 2 people that look like they're in prison garb, like walking through a prison in their prison outfits. And there's this energy of the monkey on somebody's back, and he's, clapping his head over his, or hand over his forehead, like, oh my God, the pressure and the stress of this. A 5 of Pentacles is oftentimes what we're missing out on, or what we don't have, or what we're lacking. And this just starts to look like, if is not to heap, like, oh, she's such a burden. I don't mean it to sound like that, but keep in mind, this is his story, and we have to be as specific as what it comes across as. But it is, of course, fictional story, but I try to be as detailed as I can be. And I'm saying it looks like, because of his own perceived flaws, and then also because of a karmic, all of which has been quite tucked away, hidden away, this connection to a karmic has been preventing him from attaining other things in life. So I'm going to say that this is a tremendous burden. Anytime we deal with the karmic, it is, right? And it doesn't matter if she could be 100% tip-top, healthy, fabulous in every way, but if she's in karmic energy, super demanding, all about me, everybody should kowtow to me, I have no boundaries, it's, or thought process about what's fair and what's not, because it's all about me. But if we added into the mix that story about Frida, maybe this is somebody who's needed more help. Maybe, I mean, again, 2 things can be true. They can still be someone super selfish, and they could be somebody who genuinely needs and deserves assistance, right? So this is super complicated, and we can see that there's super complication. And to have the monkey on his back, and it literally is the image of a ghost monkey here on his back. I'm thinking, like, if he already had troubles of his own, or something that he perceived as his own flaws, and then has a karmic, that needs more care, it could compound his own issues in himself as well, is, I guess, what I'm getting at just a little bit. We've got a 10 of Wands. You know what? Unburdening himself, and it just explaining the whole thing, I want to say like masquerade, or the whole drama. And it almost feels like this is somebody like moving chairs to put them into like an auditorium, and the lights are dimmed, and it's like everybody's going to show up and sit in the audience to watch a drama unfold. It feels like he's saying, this is the drama of my life. Fine, I'll tell you all the players, I'll tell you the whole plot line, I'll tell you the whole script. Go ahead, have a seat in the drama of my life. It feels better to just go ahead and admit it anyway. That's what this feels like. I would say that this has been going on for him for about 4 decades. And I only say that because we've got 4 chairs here. And it makes me think that he's carrying like opportunity after opportunity that he didn't get to take, because either of what he perceives as his own flaws, or because of this kind of karmic monkey on his back. Now, let's say that there's other details to this. Normally, if we talk about somebody having a monkey on their back, we usually know that it has to do with, a dependency of some kind, and usually we're talking about a substance. It's interesting to see that card right after a karmic, because it's likening this to, someone who is dependent upon them and like riding on their shoulders. Like, I'm always going to demand that you take care of me, and selfishly. So there's definitely, it's like something else owns them. they, on one hand, do own their own like career path and what they do for a living, but then like perhaps the most personal aspect of their life, the idea of like who they choose to be with, that seems to have been taken from them, because this is the first time I've ever seen a karmic that literally rides on somebody's back and says, you'll never be free of me. So if this is the big drama, it may just feel good for him to just go ahead and say it. It just might be like the 10 of Wands. It's like, oh my God, I just unburdened myself at least with what the real situation is. Somebody could have like possibly some like furniture that they're refurbishing also, sanding down, putting lacquer or painting. It could be antique type of, simple straight back chairs also. We have the Hanged Man. This is the reason it's a relief, is because this person has had their hands tied behind their back and so stressed for so long, carrying the burden of the truth of everything, not being able to say, this is the reality of my life. And it's like, we see, doorway after doorway after doorway. So we know that they've been in this for a long, long, long time. And it's like, that is just, it's this never ending thing. He doesn't see a way out, but he's finally just admitting what the scenario is, his flaws, the way his life has gone. Let me ask this. Why are you suddenly compelled to say this? What is it? Now I feel like those red eyes or scratchy eyes or watery eyes is more about just like eyes that are really filled with emotion, frustration, pain, all of these things. I mean, we can see like all the body language here is just stressy body language, right? So there's a lot of emotion that's been stored up, and it's got to come out somewhere, and it's coming out through the eyes right now. When I say, why is this conversation happening at this point? We have an Ace of Swords, and we've got this rose laying here. An Ace of Swords is all about speaking truth, but you notice he's like imploring the heavens here. Like, I just need to, tell my story, I guess, just once. I just need to get this off my chest. There is something about, like, there's something cathartic about speaking a truth, right? And that's how we started out. No more lies. I'm going to go ahead and speak the truth. Maybe it'll feel better to finally at least say how frustrating it is, lay out what the real drama of my life is, where all my hangups are. I'm just going to go ahead and say it, because I got to say this to possibly to an earth energy, or possibly to an air energy person. 8 of Pentacles. Look, their whole world is built on a house of cards. This person, by the way, we see them bald frequently in this, but every time they're stressed, they're bald. In truth, they may have hair, but it just shows something about, like, oftentimes if somebody like shaves their head or is bald, they say that they have a better connection actually to the energy of the universe. So whether or not he realizes it, him taking these actions seem to be him being closer to his most divine self. And then we actually see him as a more powerful king, speaking a truth, acknowledging and admitting what is going on in one's life. Just being able to tell one's own life story is perhaps like what he needs to do, like gets this off his chest, tell somebody the truth. If for nothing else other than for himself to validate, like, this is not easy, what I've been going through. This is his story. And I will say, the fact that everything seems to be so fragile, and yet I think this is the turning point. Him speaking a truth, maybe even saying, I can't keep doing all this because I'm hitting that brick wall. I have no reprieve from this. It's been so overwhelming. I mean, heck, this could be him just needing to tell somebody this is, and maybe acknowledging it to himself, maybe calling it out, like I said, to the universe, and being like, I need help, universe. This is overwhelming. It's interesting because when he speaks this real truth, that's when we start to see progress, immediate progress. Yes, it still feels kind of touch and go. It still feels like he's playing with a house of cards. It still feels like everything is delicate. But an 8 of Pentacles says, wait a second, this is remarkable how much you've been handling, how gracefully you've been handling it. That sounds like it would have been really difficult. I mean, this could be if he's saying it to her, and we haven't even gotten over to who she is yet, but if he's saying this to her, he may be stunned to hear her response, which she could be the agent of like support here and say, well, I kind of think it's amazing everything that you've been doing. Who would have guessed everybody's life story is filled with, depth and color and texture and, moments of heroism and moments of tragedy. And we oftentimes don't know what somebody else's life is made up of. But I almost think that he's getting a lot of support, possibly from her. There's that rose that keeps staring at me here. It's like he's laid down the rose and is instead, it's almost like he's given up on the idea of having love. Maybe that's why he's ready to just come clean. If he's coming clean to her, it may be that, like, I'm not saying this because I expect any romance or anything like that. I mean, it's impossible for me. I just have to speak my truth. But it's so crazy because we already saw that's when he becomes a real king, is when he's unburdening himself and speaking a real truth about how difficult everything is. It's actually where he starts to have a turnaround. With that Eight of Pentacles, that's amazing. That's a sense of stability. Like maybe he's needed to, get this out of his chest for such a long time. Can we see more about that Four of Coins? The Devil. Okay, so hold on. I don't know if this is him thinking she's going to withdraw from me and be like, wow, you're too toxic. Wow, you've got a hot mess. Wow, I don't want to deal with you and your problems. If that's what he's been thinking she would react like, withdraw from the Devil. Knight of Pentacles. That's what took him so long to say anything. He was like, it'll be the absolute kiss of death. I'll tell her what my situation is, and she'll look at me. By the way, there's the glowing eyes. She'll look at me and she'll withdraw. She won't want to sully her fragile, world full of happy dollies with a devil like me. I don't know why they think that everything in their life is so, like no one could possibly want to be around me. But this is what took them so long to just lay it all out there. It is kind of like they've been walking around feeling like there's always this great white sharks, circling behind them. And it's like, I'll never not still have to take care of my karmic. I don't know what the attachment is there, but this is somebody who says, I'll never not have something. Maybe this is their own perceived flaws that will always be the great white shark that's, always there in the back of their mind. It could just be the way they judge themselves. But it's like they're holding a skull, like for eternity. Whatever age I am now till however old I get, guess what? There will always be a great white shark that travels along with me, whether that's my perceived flaws or whether that's the way I perceive my situation with a karmic. They could feel responsible for a karmic, permanently, and they think that will never change. Okay, can we get over to that Four of Pentacles though and give her a chance? Trying to decide what deck. I think I'll go with the first one that my hand touched. Hang on, I need a little sippy. Okay, Four of Coins. Can you tell us who you are? King of Wands. Well, first off, I'm not a little girl playing with dolls. I'm a full-grown, warm-hearted, in this case, standing in my divine masculine power, which is I'm an action taker. I'm a decision maker. I'm a baller, shot caller. 20-inch blades on the Impala. Sorry, I love that. Little Troy. I love that song. Ace of Pentacles here too. Okay, so I don't even know why he sees her as like somebody who plays with dollies and withdraws from the tough things in life. This is somebody that doesn't flinch and doesn't run. This is somebody with a very big heart. This is somebody with huge compassion and huge understanding and has already overcome lots of problems of their own. You don't get to be a king, a queen, an emperor, an empress without living some life, without learning some things about yourself, without becoming an empowered person. That means you've been tested. You're, like battle tested. You're, like, what do you have? Are you the kind who runs when there's a problem? Or are you the kind who finds a solution? I'll say she is clearly the kind who finds a solution. Okay. Bear in mind, this could be a same-sex couple, but she has now, far from how they view her as somebody who plays with dolls and has like make-believe happy fantasy land and no real world struggles. It's like, are you kidding me? I've been through every battle you can imagine to become a full-blown king. I know the dirty sides of life. I know the hard sides of life. I know the bloody sides of life. I know how bad it can get, and I know how hard it is to, repair your life, and I know how hard it is to find your courage. I've been through all of it. And I also know it can change. So this is very optimistic. Here's the funny part. I'm starting to think, did he think she had a really easy life? And it's like, if only you knew. What's that song? I think it's Gordon Lightfoot. If I could tell something, if you could read my mind, love. That's actually, I think, a song about a relationship that's over. But something about, and I just can't get it back. Yeah, I think it's a song about a relationship ending, but it's just that line, if you could read my mind, love. And I feel like those are her words to him. Somebody might like Gordon Lightfoot. Maybe he's Canadian, right? So maybe somebody is in Canada or has, roots there or something. It just feels like they have been significantly misjudging who and what she is. Okay, so again, this is all just about her. And she's saying, I already saw him as a King of Pentacles, and I already know he got some problems. Yeah, I'm a fucking high priestess. Of course I can tell. But I don't expect somebody to come with no damage. I don't expect anything to be packaged so perfectly. But I thought he was pretty damn perfect. I thought, I don't understand why he can't see himself that way. I didn't see any problem. I just feel like she's got a vibe here of like she knows a heck of a lot more than what I think. If anything, if she's actually in this energy of both High Priestess and King of Wands, this is somebody who says, the reason I can tell who is capable of handling a difficult moments in life is because I know who's battle tested just like I am. I can sniff that out in someone. Funnily enough, he can't sniff it out in her, possibly because somebody who comes across with a really big heart and pretty stable energy could, and an intuitive nature, could come across to the casual observer as somebody who's just like, da, 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 floating along, nothing bothers them because they've never encountered anything that was bothersome. When in fact, they're like, I know, because I can already read the room. I can already figure out where the real dangers are and where real dangers aren't. I can also stay cool and calm under pressure because I've been through worse. It's weird because I don't think he got to know her very much. Her, she's very divine masculine and divine feminine, right? We've seen her as both, and now coming out as a full-blown major arcana. He's awesome too. He's come out as two kings, right? King of Pentacles and a King of Swords. She saw him as a King of Pentacles, as somebody that she already saw great value in, but she already knew the only reason that I would think this person has staying capability is because they have to have a sense of responsibility. So she would already appreciate and admire that. Almost like, yeah, I get it. You may have somebody that you have to obviously be responsible for, whether it's your karmic ex who needs, caretaking, or whether it's other people in your life. That's actually a bonus that you would be responsible enough. How you treat others is a good indicator of how you would treat me. I don't see what the problem is there. Tell me a little bit more. What did you think of him, like, hiding things? Because this is like he's about to reveal it all, but you can't hide much from a high priestess. We've got the 7 of Cups in the reverse. She's like, there was no mystery. I don't even know. I don't get what the mystery is all about. I guess he thinks he's hiding. It's kind of like, when like if you have like a little niece or nephew and they're like, when they're about 4-ish, they want to play hide and seek. And they think if they can't see you, then you can't see them. So, it would be like, okay, I can't see anybody. So I know I'm hidden. You guys can't find me. Oh no, now I'm invisible again. That's kind of like the equivalent of this. They think she wasn't able to read them. And she's like, I don't know why they thought they were hiding anything. this isn't a big reveal. Plot twist. It's kind of cute only because, again, you try to hide something from a high priestess. Good luck with that. But they did not know her. And I'm thinking that maybe they were just swallowed up in their own drama to an extent, and became hyper focused and turned it into, like, maybe because they were unhappy with how limited their life was, how many obligations they had, perhaps that became the focal point. So their world was the only thing that they could conceive of. Because this is a little bit unflattering. Okay, this is a little insulting to assume that, well, she's just like somebody who plays with dolls, and she certainly won't want to be around me and my, the devilish life that I have. And it's kind of like, why are you assuming that she's not somebody that you can just be straightforward with? How come you didn't bother to find out her life story, find out where she's come from, find out more about her before deciding I should hide all of my messy life from her? Because, if she really did know about it, it would just be overkill for somebody like her who likes to play with dolls. It's a little unflattering, and it sounds a little bit selfish that they could only see life through their own lens. But then again, that's all anybody can see their own life through, especially when we're unhappy or miserable. Then we really focus on just ourselves. I think that's kind of understandable. But with this Seven of Cups in the reverse, there was never a time when she didn't already have a pretty good clue into what was going down with them. I don't know if she knew the specifics, but I'm sure she could read something going on in their world. So she's not shocked. She's not surprised, especially if they've been taking great pains to lie and hide stuff. Those lies, she probably knew every time somebody lied to her. She probably could always tell. And it's like, do I, like pull out a little lie jar and, throw a couple coins in and be like, there we go again. If I keep saving every time you say a lie instead of like taking a shot, this is like the game of shots, only let's put money in a jar instead, because I'm going to have a big old great vacation by the end of a year of knowing you, because you lie over and over to me about stuff that I can see right through, and I'll put another dollar, put another penny in the jar. It just feels kind of like that. I hope she's not taking shots every time they tell a lie to hide their terrible, secret that isn't really that terrible or that secret. Or she gonna be drunky if she's taking shots. Let me go back over here. And first off, we didn't hardly give her much to like flesh out who she is or anything. And I do just want to say she could have Native American or perhaps like Asian, or there's something really beautiful about her cheekbones. I don't know if somebody just has great cheekbones, but there is like a very ethereal look to her. Now, first, of course, we saw her as a divine masculine as well. She may be very attuned and tapped into her masculine feminine energies, as I said earlier, but also her heart space. So this could be somebody who's like, I could see her being somebody who would work like with children, because you got to be loving but firm. That's true anytime you're raising, nurturing, or training. She could be a great trainer even of adults, because she may know how to lead, but then also be supportive, but also have standards. I could see her being like a high school teacher, like young adults, or again, some of the best teachers of adults are going to be the ones who were teachers for children first, because we're really all still just 5 years old on the inside. But I just see her as somebody who could be exceptionally good at leading, directing, having boundaries, but also inspiring and being very supportive, very loving. I feel like that's who she's been in this. She's really good at figuring out what isn't being said. She may have a real nice voice also, or have just a certain way about her that can be very gentle, very soothing. Some people that meet her will find her like boisterous and outgoing, and other people will find her really calming. It'll be one of the two. It depends on which persona she's projecting. And it's just another kind of strange, not strange, but just another kind of like element to her, the duality of her nature, and how different people might even describe her as looking vastly different, because her energy can shift from like high energy to softer, lower, calmer energy. And that could change the way people see her. she could be the person who's like quiet, and then you go out and she's like the one on the dance floor, like tearing up a rug. It could be something like you're like, wow, I wouldn't have expected. She may wear glasses. I'm picturing her like taking off her glasses. And that could be another thing like, whoa, your look is so different. You're, free spirited version of yourself versus like your work version of yourself. So she's, I think, easily misunderstood, easily put in categories that she doesn't belong in. And it particularly, I don't believe that they ever saw her, not the real her. They were too busy keeping track of how they didn't want her to really see them. That doesn't work. Let me ask this, character, why were you drawn to her in the first place? Why were you drawn to her? Emperor, man, she makes him feel like a man. She makes him feel like this would be the relationship I would want to be in. This would be the relationship I would want to dedicate myself to. Instead, I have dedicated myself willingly or unwillingly. I have a great white shark that follows me around. But this is what I would have wanted. I would have wanted to be the emperor in this relationship. Okay. So you love her. You really love her. You could have in another lifetime could have been like, this is my person. This is the empire I build with. This is the person I would have been my best self with. Okay, that's pretty solid. That's pretty profound love. What's making you now just lay down the whole story, most of which she kind of already intuitively knows? We have Queen of Cups sideways. On one hand, they know that she is somebody who will receive. They do know that about her. I can see why they keep thinking that she's, like this gentle spirit and even kind of like soft and innocent, because the Queen of Cups can, this is like the other depiction of her being that high priestess, the soft kind of loving energy. But it's almost like he's saying, I've wanted her to shield her from, what the realities of my world is. But on the other hand, I really should tell her the truth. But I think it's also because he needs to get this off his chest, and she would be a good, I'll say, dumping ground for him to finally, like, if there's one person on earth that he feels like he could dump all of this out to, it would be her. So it is kind of for him, right? Like, why do we have confidants? Why do we all call our mom, or our, somebody in our life that we consider to be the person that when life gets really frustrating, we want to like dump what we're going through on them. It's because we feel some element of support or like non-judgment. Even though he still says she's going to pull away from me, deep down he knows that's not really true, because why are you picking her to say this to? It isn't just because it's like, oh, well, she deserves the truth. Because look at the Queen of Cups sideways. There's a little bit of like almost an edge of bitterness to this. Like, I may as well tell her so that then, she can withdraw. It's like he's so frustrated, even with what he believes he can never have, that he may as well tell her the worst so she can go running for the hills. But on the other hand, what if she was supportive? You already know she's going to be supportive. Come on now. You know that. You would not be picking her for no reason to say this to. Even if you loved her, you would not be saying this if you had zero hope that she would catch you as you fall, because he's fallen apart in this. As much as he wishes he could have been her emperor, he's at this point where he's hit the brick wall of saying, I literally, like, it's just, I'm at the end of my wits, saying, I don't see anything changing. That feeling of being disempowered and not being able to change anything, seeing a stressful situation go on and on and on and on, and imagining that's what our lot is in life. That is him having the meltdown. That is probably why it was red eyes, watery eyes. I thought it was allergies at first or something. Now it's definitely, it's not even just an outpouring of emotion. It's like full on meltdown. We have a Four of Swords. We have a Queen of Pentacles. We have a Queen of Wands upright. So we have three queens in this little segment here. He wishes he could have been with her. He thinks he's got to just go ahead and dump all this on her, secretly hoping that somehow, some way, she'll give him a way to make it better. And I'm going to go ahead and be blunt. And I think it's almost like I'm not saying he's going to suggest this, but I am going to say since this full moon, he maybe subconsciously has found what he would never say out loud, but what he wishes could be the solution, which is, would you be, I can't be the emperor to you, not really. Would you be my, not a side piece, but if I'm acknowledge that I am indeed with a Queen of Wands, and on paper that may be who I'm with, but can I be with you too? Very unconventional, very, look, I don't think he's going to say it. I don't think, but that is where he's hit the brick wall. The brick wall, the reality of it is I will never not have to take care of the Queen of Wands. I can't hide it. I can't hide her, and I can't move on from it. And I'm always going to have some kind of responsibility. So I'm basically asking, will you be my mistress? That's what this feels like, even though I don't think he's going to say it out loud. But I believe this is really why the meltdown is happening, because that is the only offer he could possibly make, though he won't vocalize it. But if he dumps all this on her, there's that's the other secret, or the other, truth to this. I could never disrespect her and say that to her, will you be my side piece? Even though, as we can see with the complexity of this, is not exactly what it would be. But if we're going to put it on paper and write it out, that's exactly what he's asking. But again, he's not going to ask. He's going to tell her all of the reasons that everything is a train wreck. He's going to say it's because, obviously my life is a disaster. Here's the drama. Here, have a seat. Watch me play out this freaking drama that'll never stop. I'm sorry, I'm very blunt in this, but that is what he's asking. Will you be my mistress? Although he won't say it out loud. But that's the reality of what as much as he would be offering, you would be the other person. Sorry, I thought I knocked a card down with my elbow, but I didn't. Okay. This is not such an easy scenario to try to describe, right? This is the equivalent of what it would be, although, as we already know, there's nothing about the situation with the Queen of Wands that is in reality anything at all like the situation that he feels for her. And I'm not advocating for her to say, okay, sure, you're always going to be married to somebody else that you'll have to give tons and tons of your attention to. And, if they're ill or they're unwell, your finances will have to go to them. You'll still always be at their beck and call, and I'll be the person who gets a little bit of leftover. And that's what you're trying to offer me. I mean, but that is the reality. However, in a storyline as complex as this, we could look at it from the other lens also. If these two people genuinely loved each other and circumstances are incredibly complicated and difficult, does it mean that they don't ever take what they can and have whatever version of relationship that they can? I mean, is it better to go without, or is it better for them to take what opportunity they have? And in this case, it's almost like only she can decide that, right? And no judgment on anything that she decides. This is not an easy story. Maybe that's why it's a better story to have to really think about it, because I can see complete pros and cons on either side, or not pros and cons exactly, but I can see the reason to say, oh, F that, never in a million years, how disrespectful. And then I can flip it and say, God, I hurt for these people. I hope they take what happiness they can get. So I'm part of me is like, I'm rooting for it and I'm frustrated by it. And I'm, it's a tough one. AC, thank you, love. Thank you so much. We have a 3 of Cups. It is, will you be in a forever third party with me? That is the crux of this. That is why all of this has been so messy. So if we go back to all of his cards, they were awful. Absolutely awful. And this is him trying to at least explain everything. But we've had tremendous distress. We've had, I wouldn't want to be him. Let's just put it that way. I wouldn't want to be him. The circumstances that he's in. Now, we didn't see him like, well, I just don't want to leave because there's money. We didn't see anything that was like, What do you mean? Why can't you just break it off with the Queen of Wands? We actually had a pretty strong story, a pretty strong argument for somebody that will always need care of some variety. And that's really where the crux of it all is the sense of responsibility, the sense of I cannot move on from this. I know that I will never be able to. And that may be why he's kind of like imploring the universe, like, what do I do? And the universe, let me just ask, let's change and let's ask from the universe. Universe, what is your best advice to him in this? Wheel of Fortune, 7 of Sacred Circles. This is that card that my baby ate when he was a little tiny puppy. And it always to me says, you're wasting daylight, dude. You got so many years in this lifetime, in this, with this name and this particular meat suit that we drive around. You're wasting time. You already know what you need to do, or you already have reached a point where the most that can be learned out of a situation has been learned, and now it is time. This is the right time for you to take some kind of an action. But what does that mean? Is it just it's time for him to like come clean about all this? Or does that mean it's time? Okay, it is time for him to go ahead, and I'll just say come clean and say, here's what I do want, what I've always wanted, which is to be the emperor to you. He should have said this a long time ago. He's wasted a lot of time. None of this should have been hidden. None of this situation, maybe it was turned into a way bigger drama because of him. Maybe an unconventional thing. I mean, there's plenty of, let's use this as an example. Let's give a very extreme example that is very understandable. Let's say, his first relationship, marriage, husband, wife, marriage, whatever, wife, husband, doesn't matter, supply whatever genders. Let's say he's married to somebody, and let's say, heaven forbid, they got into a significant injury and they literally, have to have a live-in caregiver. Say they can't walk, say that they can't do things physically for themselves. But they're not a good couple, but they were married once upon a time. Maybe still are for the sake of health insurance. And that is the caring and the compassion. Say they even had a child together at some point. It's like, I don't get a choice to abandon someone who, even if I'm not romantically involved, never will be, but that was the mother or father of my child. And what if I'm the only thing standing between them and being out on the streets and wheelchair bound? Well, what's a decent human going to do? They're going to do the right thing, and they're going to take care of that person at great personal cost. Does that mean that and I'm giving a very extreme scenario, does that mean then that that's it? That's what their entire life is? That's all their life can be made up of? I would argue, well, of course not. Of course not. And it would be certainly unconventional and certainly difficult, but would they go on? Would they fall in love with somebody who maybe is the right person for them? And could that right person possibly say, well, I mean, yeah, I know I'd be basically being with you, and then somehow together your problems are going to become mine too. So the care that your ex still needs, or even the person that you're still technically married to, you're still going to be a big part of their life, which means I'm going to be too. That's life. That's grown-up life, where it's not a movie and it's not perfect. Instead, it's hard and it's unconventional, and things aren't so straightforward, and you can't just divorce and move on from a partner and never look back. Sometimes, decency requires that you don't, even though we could also say, well, what about decency for, him being able to like fully commit to her? But this story is really challenging us to consider it from a completely different view. When would this still be something where it's like, I mean, even the universe is saying, you want to be an emperor to somebody that you really love for all the right reasons? Then go and tell the person the truth, even with the difficult situation, even with the unconventional situation, but don't hide the fact that you love somebody despite the scenario that you find yourself in this case. And the only reason I'm like giving some extreme scenarios, because we did have enough court cards to support that, but we also had the universe even pushing and saying, you got to do what you got to do, but emperor up and do it. You love somebody, And if your situation in this might be the most honorable thing they could do is to tell this high priestess that they love this high priestess, and to tell the high priestess the full story, and to let her decide if there's any universe in which she would accept what they are able to give her, even if it is not everything. That's, oh, this is a tough one. This is a tough one, but those are great cards, honestly, for like at least encouraging him to do the thing that is the truest, which is to speak a truth. Now, universe, what about for her? What's the best message? Be the queen that you are, queen of sacred circles. Now, bear in mind, he came across as a king of pentacles by his own, in the very beginning, he was first a king of pentacles. She also saw him as a king of pentacles. So the universe is just saying, and I do think that our mortal lifespan is being heavily being reminded to these characters. We have from the day we're born until the day that we cross the rainbow bridge to do and choose whatever we're going to. And we're going to learn tons of lessons. And we're going to find that life is not such a neat and tidy, everybody stays in their lane and we just drive straight and we all, drive the speed limit. Instead, we're going to discover that life takes us in directions and we have to contemplate things we never knew we'd contemplate, and we have to decide for ourselves where our comfort zone is and how we can exist, or how we can find truth and meaning in things that maybe we never would have conceived ourselves, having to contemplate. But that's the whole thing. It's her journey through life. So in this lifetime, if she wants to be with him, if this is a soulmate match, she is a queen of pentacles and believes he is her king of pentacles. The only blockage to her saying, well, I'm going to be with you in the capacity that we have the ability to, because at least this love is true, our hearts are true, and the circumstances are not easy, but we're going to have to figure out how to make this work. If that's what she wants to do, if she doesn't want to miss out on the chance to be with him, then she's going to be accepting all of it for what it is. On the other hand, if it's like, no, in my lifetime from now until then, I'd rather live a life where I don't look back and think of the years I spent with you under kind of odd circumstances, admittedly, she's got to be really conscious about her life story. This is not about right and wrong. It's not about, anything other than, well, it is about right and wrong for her. Is what would be more right for you, to choose to be with somebody that you care about, or to choose to say, I couldn't be with them because it's not a neat and tidy straight line. And, life is not really black and white. Life is lots and lots of gray. We have a 4 of Swords. This is putting a huge burden on her, but it's a burden that she might be able to, she's already known a lot of this anyway. And she's already thought, from what we saw, that he was somebody who had a real amount of stability. But this is a new level of her being asked to contemplate where her comfort zone is. Her knowing that, oh, I know he had a complicated situation, I could totally tell. But now the reality that that complicated situation may never go away. And what he's essentially asking you to do is accept that complicated situation and accept a hell of a lot less than what you would have ever contemplated. You're going to be the other queen. Again, kind of like in name only, but still, that's a lot for her to have to wrap her head around. And with this, lay down some kind of stigma or guilt or something about that as well. You notice how she's letting the sand out of her kimono. Can this be something that she can see herself doing and not feeling like somehow this is taboo, this is wrong? It's like when we let go of what other people tell us our guilt should be, and we decide, look, nobody knows what the scenario is but me. Nobody knows what the sincerity of the connection is but me. This is like, she might have to break some pretty firmly held, beliefs about no, you should divorce that person, then I can be with you. We can't have blurred lines like this. This storyline is only blurred lines. Unfortunately, we do not have the luxury of unblurring anything in this story. We didn't get cards that tell us that there's any chance to unblur. Even the one Ace of Swords we saw was sideways. So this storyline, we don't get to make it happy or make it fit for us. We have to watch this play out and see with tension, what's she gonna do? And this is a story that really pushes the boundaries a bit for her to have to figure out, like, more or less, that she has a right to choose what's right for her. If she doesn't want to be with him and it doesn't work for her, she doesn't have to feel guilty about that. She's like, no, you know what? I get his situation. I know he loves me. I even really love him, but I'm not that person. I can't do it. I don't want it that bad under those circumstances. I'd rather live my whole life and never be with him. And I'm not going to feel guilty about that. I don't have to walk around and say that it's going to break my heart and his. I can love again. I can meet somebody else. Or on the flip side, she may say, it is, everything in me is like, oh my God, I'm technically going to be the other woman. I'm technically going to be with a married person. I'm technically going to do all these taboo things. Well, fuck that. I don't care. It's not the same situation for everyone. My situation is not theirs. I pick them anyway. And I pick this love, and I'm not going to be sorry about it. You know, whatever she's going to choose, she has to do it without like guilt and shame, is what I would say. And only she knows what will work for her. That's kind of the universe's message to her is, this is your life, darling, from birth till the rainbow bridge. Only you get to decide, and you can't walk around though in like, I feel guilt, because that'll sour everything. So whatever choice you make, do it with your head held high. Don't feel like everybody's judging you, and certainly don't judge yourself. Pick what's right for you under your circumstances. Only your soul has to be comfortable with it, nobody else. And as long as I think she can do that, that's going to be a true answer for her. I don't know what that means for her. Let me get one last card. We got the devil. And I'm going to say it this way. Oh God. So on one hand, the universe is like, do you think it would be better for the two of you to miss each other your entire lives and be angry and frustrated and build resentment about how you can never be together? Would that be less toxic than choosing to be together? However, here's the other message on this. If trying to be together under these very different circumstances is going to become something that where it keeps ripping you two apart, better to find that out and then discover after trying it that it doesn't work. You know, this is, it's too much complication. I can't be with somebody who still has a toxic ex who runs our lives now. I can't do it. So the universe is just being really blunt. Figure out where the toxicity is going to be. Is it harder to stay away while wanting each other and being bitter that you can't be together? Or is it going to be harder to be together? That's, again, only they will know. So it's interesting how they each have a choice to make, and then together they're going to have to sleuth out. And the thing to look for is not how happy are we, but how messed up are we? If we get together, are we better together or better apart? They may discover we're going to choose this, we're going to do this. And then it's like, you know what? This actually doesn't work, but now we can finally walk away with no regrets. Or they could be together and be like, wow, you know what? It was so much worse us staying away from each other and insisting we couldn't be together. It's time we find out. That's what I think the universe is saying. It's just time that they figure it out. Can you be together or can't you? Figure that bit out. All right, I'm going to leave this here. Thank you guys so much for giving it a thumbs up. Thank you to the 136 of you that did give it a thumbs up out of the 300 watching right now. I so appreciate you guys. That little action really does help a channel to grow, helps you know, anybody that you watch, all the free content that all the content creators put out there. It's so helpful that you guys give the videos thumbs up and subscribe. Those things really it's what the algorithms look for. And if we don't have our videos circulate, then they never get seen, and then you can't continue to do it, and then your channel ends. So it actually really does make a big difference. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, everybody. Really good to see everybody. All right, I am going to wrap this up. I've got to get to bed tonight early because I've got a really early morning tomorrow. I will see you guys tomorrow for sure, and we'll get back on track a bit. But I hope everybody's beginning of the week has been good. It's been busy. It's been moving fast, right? Anyway, you guys, thanks again. So good to see you. Patricia, hi. Hi, RS. Violet, Colm C, Brian Van Winkle. Thank you, everybody. AC, hi, babe. Karen Bishop, Crystal Suzanne, hi, honey. You guys are you guys are feeling the allergies. It is really common, huh? For sure. Tea babies in the house. Hi, honey. Lulu Bell, thank you. Thank you so much. Miss So the Peaceful Observer, wonderful to see you. Voyager 2, I love the ladybug. That's so nice. Lulu Bell, thank you. I really like this backdrop too. I think it's really nice. It's one of my favorites. Well, I mean, I guess I probably have like 20 favorites, is the truth of it. Victoria Knox, hi. Scroll through. Roxanne, hi. That's awesome. You caught me during my tea sippy. T.A. Cahill, how are you, hun? Thanks for being in here. Really great to catch you. Victoria Knox, you're whistling in the song. That's awesome. The Jake from State Farm. I think was oh gosh. Was in the film series 24. President Palmer. Was he the State Farm guy too? I love him. He was my favorite of all of the. Was it Progressive or was it? I can't remember. Anyway, whatever commercial, I used to just love to hear him talk in those commercials. I love his voice. I can't think of the actor's name either, but he was the best. I think out of all the, in this 24 with Kiefer Sutherland, President Palmer was my favorite. Hi, Rebecca. Robin, hi. Hi, Chrissy. I love that. Yoga teacher by day and a dancer at night. That's awesome. Hi, Decoded. Thank you, guys. Really good to see everybody. That's so awesome, Karen. Sabrina, thank you for being here. Great to see you. Hi, Angelina Davina. Yes, I know, RS. That was a pretty big plot twist. Hi, Jeanette. Oh, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry, Jeanette. That sounds like that family's gone through a lot. I'm sorry to see that. I'm sending them support for sure. Shell Hamilton, really good to see you. Robin. Hi, Lori. Massetti. I hear you. I hear you. Absolutely. Great point. Hi, Sonara. Yeah, well said also. I know this was one that like really stirred up a lot of like great points of perspective. Miso the Peaceful Observer, yeah, he can help who we fall for. It happens. Yeah, totally. Yeah, Wendy E, that's so true. Yeah. Hi, Star. I know this was a tough one, wasn't it? It was definitely a popcorn muncher. You're right, RS. Um, all right, you guys. Take care, everyone. And I love to see like everybody has their weigh in on this one. I know it was tough. All right, everybody. Lots of love. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye for now. My pleasure.